407 years ago our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember, what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. Our progress in degeneracy appears to me to be pretty rapid. How do I complain to Expedia? Now I can ride. I have a pumpkin in each end of my sack. Advancement, improvement in condition, is the order of things in a society of equals. In leaving the people's business in their hands, we cannot be wrong. It is not the years in your life that count, it is the life in your years. Is it unreasonable then to expect, that some man possessed of the loftiest genius, coupled with ambition sufficient to push it to its utmost stretch, will at some time spring up among us? If you can't do the skin mean, the least you could do is hold a leg. The hen is the wisest of all the animal creation, as she never cackles until the egg is laid. The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. When I learn new things I change my mind. What do you do? They, the writers of the U.S. Constitution, were pillars of the Temple of Liberty, and now that they have crumbled away that temple must fall unless we, their descendants, supply their places with other pillars, hewn from the solid quarry of sober reason. Passion has helped us, but can do so no more. It will in future be our enemy. Reason, cold, calculating, unimpassioned reason, must furnish all the materials for our future support and defense. Let those materials be molded into general intelligence, sound morality, and in particular, a reverence for the Constitution and laws, and that we improve to the last, that we remained free to the last, that we revered his name to the last, that during his long sleep we permitted no hostile foot to pass over or desecrate his resting place, shall be that which to learn the last trump shall awaken our Washington. Give me 6 hours to chop a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. Be sure to place your feet in the right place, then stand firm. Be guided by reason. Cold, calculated, unimpassioned reason. Gustavo Solivelas dice, las personas son tan felices como transforman sus mentes para serlo, Abraham Lincoln. And in the end it's not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years. I do the very best I know how, the very best I can, and I mean to keep doing so until the end. If the end brings me out all right, what is said against me won't amount to anything. If the end brings me out wrong, 10 angels swearing I was right would make no difference. Both read the same Bible, and pray to the same God, and each invokes his aid against the other. It may seem strange that any men should dare to ask a just God's assistance in wringing their bread from the sweat of other men's faces. People named John tend to be highly susceptible to false information online and tend to believe whatever already lines up with their worldview. And having thus chosen our course, without guile, and with pure purpose, let us renew our trust in God, and go forward without fear, and with manly hearts. He only has the right to criticize who has the heart to help. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. Possiamo lamentarsi perch I sespugli di rose hanno lo spine, o gioire perch I sespugli spinosi hanno lo rose. Potit ingener tutti per qualche tempo e qualcuno per semper, ma non potit ingener tutti per semper. To secure to each laborer the whole product of his labor, or as nearly as possible, is a most worthy object of any good government. I would save the Union. I would save it the shortest way under the Constitution. From the Prayer of 20 Millions by Horace Greeley 1862. It is true that even then alcohol, was known and acknowledged that many were greatly injured by it, but none seemed to think the injury arose from the use of a bad thing, but from the abuse of a very good thing. The victims of it were to be pitied and compassionate, just as are the heirs of consumption and other hereditary diseases. Their failing was treated as a misfortune, and not as a crime, or even as a disgrace. If, then, what I have been saying is true, is it wonderful that some should think and act now as all thought and acted 20 years ago? And is it just to assail, condemn, or despise them for doing so? The universal sense of mankind on any subject is an argument, or at least an influence, not easily overcome. The success of the argument in favor of the existence of an overruling providence mainly depends upon that sense. And men ought not in justice to be denounced for yielding to it in any case, or giving it up slowly, especially when they are backed by interest, fixed habits, or burning appetites. Nearly all men can handle adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bonds of affection. The mystic cords of memory, stretching from every battlefield, and patriot grave, to every living heart and hearthstone, all over this broad land, will yet swell the chorus of the Union, when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature. Friend stranger. Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man's character, give him power. My paramount objective in this struggle is to save the Union, and it is not I that is to save or destroy slavery. The Prayer of 20 Millions by Horace Greeley 1862. People without any vices rarely have any virtues either. I will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. It is not the Constitution as I would like to have it, but as it is, that is to be defended. It must be so respected, obeyed, enforced and defended, and let the grass grow where it may. I am now the most miserable man living. If what I feel were equally distributed to the whole human family, there would not be one cheerful face on the earth. Quando faccio bene mi sento bene. Quando faccio male mi sento male. Questa è la mia religione. Worse than traitors in arms are the men who, pretending loyalty to the flag, feast and fatten on the misfortunes of the nation. And now beware of rashness. Beware of rashness, but with energy and sleepless vigilance go forward and give us victories. I have here stated my purpose according to my view of official duty. And I intend no modification to my oft-expressed personal wish that all men everywhere could be free. The Prayer of 20 Millions 1862. If the do has the can, and the ifs possess the buts, then the has can the can in the ifs but, and the delicate walnut shell that is the universe shall be sundered, and the prepositional pronouns will break free from their shackles, and the whens shall rule the world. Government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. These slaves constituted a peculiar and powerful interest. All knew that this interest was, somehow, the cause of the war. To strengthen, perpetuate, and extend this interest was the object for which the insurgents would rend the Union, even by war, while the government claimed no right to do more than to restrict the territorial enlargement of it. My best friend is the man who'll get me a book I ain't read. I'd rather be quiet and thought a fool than to speak and remove all doubt. This is essentially a people's contest. On the side of the Union it is a struggle for maintaining in the world that form and substance of government whose leading object is to elevate the condition of men, to lift artificial weights from all shoulders, to clear the paths of laudable pursuits for all, to afford all an unfettered start and a fair chance in the race of life. Yielding to partial and temporary departures, from necessity, this is the leading object of the government for whose existence we contend. I am most happy to believe that the plain people understand and appreciate this. It is worthy of note that while, in this the government's hour of trial, large numbers of those in the army and navy who have been favored with the offices have resigned and proved false to the hand which. I will say then that I am not, nor ever have been, in favor of bringing about in any way the social and political equality of the white and black races. That I am not nor ever have been in favor of making voters or jurors of Negroes, nor of qualifying them to hold office, nor to intermarry with white people, and I will say in addition to this that there is a physical difference between the white and black races which I believe will forever forbid the two races living together on terms of social and political equality. The trouble with quotes on the internet is that it's difficult to determine whether or not they are genuine. Gustavo Solovelas dice, ningún hombre tiene memoria sufficient para ser un mentiroso exitoso, Abraham Lincoln. We cannot absolutely know that all these exact adaptations are the result of preconcert. But when we see a lot of framed timbers, different potions of which we know have been gotten out at different times and places and by different workmen, Stephen, Franklin, Roger and James, for instance, and we see these timbers joined together, and see they exactly make the frame of a house or a mill, all the tenons and mortises exactly fitting, and all the lengths and proportions of the different pieces exactly adapted to their respective places, and not a piece too many or too few not. Omitting even scaffolding or, if a single piece be lacking, we see the place in the frame exactly fitted and prepared to yet bring such piece in such a case, we find it impossible not to believe that Stephen and Franklin and Roger and James all understood one another from the beginning, and all worked upon a common plan or draft drawn up before the first lick was struck. No American can study the character and career of Abraham Lincoln without being carried away by sentimental emotions. We are always inclined to idealize that which we love, a state of mind very unfavorable to the exercise of sober critical judgment. Nothing is more damaging to you than to do something that you believe is wrong. The best way to predict the future is to create it. I am a slow walker, but I never walk back. And in the end, it's not the years in your life that count, it's the life in your years. The strength of a nation lies in the homes of its people. Being used now, in order to force slavery on to Kansas, for it cannot be done in any other way. Sensation. The Georgia secedes from the Union. 21st, withdrawal from the Senate of Jefferson Davis and other Southern senators. 26th, to Mrs. C. W. Pratt, herewith I send you my autograph, which you request. I listen to everybody, but most of the time I learn not to do. Opportunities for satisfying that thirst were. Mention, die kein laster haben auch nur wenig Tugenden. If what I feel were equally distributed to the whole human family, there would not be one cheerful face on earth. The thing about quotes on the internet is that you never know if they are genuine.